listening to Driving Law, a podcast by Kyla about all things related to the rules of the road.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Driving Law. I am Kyla, and with me, my co-host, Paul Doroshenko.
Hi, Kyla. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It feels like this week has lasted 1,000 years.
Feels like it was a month.
Yeah.
Feels like it was a month.
Yeah.
We were talking about the things we were doing on Monday. Now I can't remember what they were. We were talking, I presented to
Like
the Trial Lawyers Association.
And I said, what presentation?
Yeah, you were the one who was presenting me at the introducing me at the presentation.
No, that wasn't on Monday.
That was a good presentation. It was using AI in your criminal defense practice, and it's there's lots of dangerous little traps there, but there are certainly things you should be using to the benefit of your client.
Yep, absolutely.
I enjoyed that presentation, but that was felt like a month ago. Since then, I've been in Kamloops, Salmon Arm, Scotch Creek, Enderby, Vernon, Kelowna, Penticton, and Oliver.
Princeton. Someone's calling your phone.
Somebody's trying to call me. They'll figure it out.
And you were out delivering booze?
I was delivering alcohol. Yeah. And so that was a long week. I also conducted how many hearings? 10, 12 hearings this week, because we were still dealing with the backlog of IRP hearings from the job action. So
I'm trying to count, but it feels like 12 is too many, but it probably was, which means I conducted like double that.
Yeah.
Whatever that makes.
Well, I did 4 yesterday. I did some on Monday.
Yeah.
I did one on
Wednesday.
Tuesday.
There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Yes. So flooded with work. This is not abnormal for us for once the Christmas parties start, but this is like collapsed amount of 2 months worth of work into basically 2 weeks right now to clear the backlog. So
yep, really sucks.
Yep, it has been tough.
Anyway, we do have big driving law news this week. Huge driving law news. So a private member's bill, but by an NDP backbencher, was tabled in the BC legislature, and it's picking up steam. It's going to pass, which is wild because private members' bill never passes.
Well, it's terrifying. And if it passes, this is really bad news. But it's a private member's bill by the government.
Yeah.
By a government member. And obviously they've discussed it beforehand. And it's almost like the government itself doesn't want to take responsibility for the carnage it's going to cause.
Well, we didn't do it. A member did it, and then everybody voted for it, but people vote their conscience.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, it's called Xavier's Law.
Well, that's the name. This is the terrible trend that we have where they start giving legislation a de facto name or its own name that's not the name in the law to try and recognize somebody who was hurt by somebody else.
I mean, that was a tragic case.
Terrible.
I don't think this legislation would have prevented that. I feel the same way about Carol Burner and the IRP scheme.
No, I know. Tragic cases making terrible law.
So this bill essentially creates an immediate driving prohibition issued at the discretion of a police officer only, that is not reviewable.
No hearing.
For 30 days based on reckless driving.
So 30-day driving prohibition, immediately, opinion of police officer, and you cannot question or challenge the opinion of the police officer.
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about the police officers you know. Even if you're a police officer and you're listening to our podcast, and we know some do, think about the police officers you know who you would not want to be pulled over by, or do not want your family members pulled over by. Those odd police officers who are power trip easily, or just have their buttons pushed easily, or anything like that, on their opinion, and it's it's not reviewable, so their opinion can be on anything.
Yeah, the bill does define reckless driving, but we're going to go through.
But it's not reviewable, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They could just say reckless driving, and it could be none of these things, because it won't change the fact that you're still going to lose your license for 30 days. So It means first, driving or operating a motor vehicle in a manner that indicates an intention to lift some or all of the tires from the road surface. So you don't even have to lift them; you just have to indicate an intention to, or lift axles on commercial vehicles.
Yeah.
What's the intention?
How is this
Like, do you lean forward a little bit on your motorcycle and all of a sudden, well, that's the first step in doing a wheelie. You lean forward to get the momentum to pull back? Like what?
Yeah. I don't know. Accelerate, and the police officer doesn't like the way you accelerated?
Uh,
Leaning back a little bit too much?
B, in a manner that indicates the driver or operator's intention to cause some or all of the motor vehicle tires to lose traction with the road surface while turning.
So you're turning.
Burnout.
It's slightly wet out. I have an old truck. I have 2 old trucks. They always lose traction a little bit, and I let off on the gas, and you have to figure out like how much you could accelerate. Or driving up Oak Street here in Vancouver, turning off Second, your tires may skid because you're going up a wet hill. Like,
Well, we're in British Columbia where it's snowy
I
and
know.
icy
I know,
for
causing
8 months of the year.
causing your vehicle to lose traction.
Yeah. And then C, in a manner that indicates the driver or operator's intention to spin the motor vehicle or cause the motor vehicle to circle without maintaining control over the motor vehicle. So doing donuts.
Well, doing donuts. I used to like to do donuts in my 1956 Volkswagen van in Rundle Park in Edmonton.
And I bet you did them at like 2 o'clock in the morning when nobody was around.
Nobody around.
So is that reckless driving then?
Parking lot, nobody was around.
Is it reckless driving then?
Yeah, no, it's not reckless driving.
So
It was fun.
yeah.
And it was not risking anybody except not even myself.
Yep. And then next to or in proximity to one or more other motor vehicles where one of the motor vehicles occupies a lane of traffic or other portion of the highway intended for use by the oncoming traffic, vehicle approaching each other in oncoming lanes, for a period of time that is longer than reasonably required to pass another motor vehicle. So you pull out to pass somebody in the oncoming lane, and you stay longer than's reasonably required. What's reasonable in your judgment versus the officer's judgment looking at it?
So I've been driving around in our distillery delivery van this summer. Been enjoying it. But when I pass people, it's hard to get a good idea of how far past you are before you have to go into the other lane. And I don't pass if there's any, if I can't see a long way ahead. And I don't pass if there's a corner coming up or if there's any vehicles a long way ahead. And so
I've been in the car with you when you've been passing, and I'm like, please don't, please.
yeah, I know. Well, that's because
I don't believe in passing.
you're terrified about that. But I will stay in my lane until I know that I'm safely clear that vehicle, and I'm not going to cause that vehicle to have to brake or be concerned about anything. I just want to make sure I'm safe. I can see the road safe ahead of me.
Well, and you don't know if you're passing them gives them the idea that they're going too slow, and then they start to speed up too.
Well, that's the other thing that unfortunately does happen. You start passing people and they start to speed up. But, I always want to make sure that whoever's passing me safely gets past me. That's the whole idea there. I often slow down. But again, I'm driving a van that's a little bit longer. It's like 16 feet or just under that. And I'm looking at the mirror, and the mirror is calculating that objects are closer than they appear. And I want to make sure that I'm safely past it. So I linger in that lane if it's safe to do so. Unreasonable, I'm going to lose my license for 30 days if a police officer has that opinion. And I can't review it. So it doesn't matter what his opinion is. He can just allege it, or she.
Yeah. E, with a person in the trunk of a motor vehicle. That one I actually don't care about. You shouldn't be putting people in your trunk. That's stupid.
Yeah, I
Also, can you imagine like the murderers and the kidnappers who have people in their trunk?
know, and now they're all going to get a 30-day driving prohibition.
It doesn't say a living person either. So if you're like
If it's a corpse,
if
then
you're
it doesn't
that
count.
rapper David, D41D.
I
The
don't
guy,
know.
anyway, he had a body in his trunk for a long time.
Yeah,
He was alleged to have killed this
It
girl.
was a tragically hip song about driving around with a body in your trunk, but that's a corpse is different from a person.
I don't think it is. A corpse is a person. It's just not a living person.
Well, the point is you can't have a review anyway, so
Just
that's never gonna. We'll never have clarity on that.
I mean, if you have a dead person in your trunk, that's maybe the least of your worries. But driving with a person in your trunk, I think would be easily a dangerous operation of a motor vehicle charge.
What happens if you're on that highway between like Prince George and Stewart, BC, and you got a 6-hour drive to go, and your passenger dies. You know, you've got a big trunk, you got a Volvo 240. You don't want to sit with them behind you in the car. You put them in the trunk. You don't put them on the roof.
I don't know
National
what
Lab Police Vacation. You could put them on the roof and you won't get a 90-day driving or a
think-
30-day driving.
I think I just weekend at Bernie's the whole thing.
Would you? Yeah. I don't want to sit beside a corpse.
All right.
What if they turn into a deadite? I'd rather they were in the trunk.
The next one, driving at a rate of speed exceeding 40 kilometers per hour, the maximum rate of speed. It's written so weird. If the speed limit is less than 80 kilometers per hour.
So if the speed limit's 70 kilometers an hour and you're driving 40 kilometers an hour above that, so you're driving 110, 111. Of course, it's opinion of a police officer, so that doesn't mean the police officer can do math. They don't have to do math. They can just be wrong.
Oh, and they could measure your speed wrong.
It's not reviewable, so it doesn't matter.
Yep, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they get it wrong. But also, we already have an automatic 7-day impound for excessive speed, which this is. We already have the ticket and the points. Why do we need to take somebody's license for 30 days for this as well? Then, at a rate of speed exceeding 50 kilometers per hour, the maximum rate of speed, if the speed limit is 80 kilometers per hour or more. So 130 in an 80 zone.
130 in an 80 zone.
31.
Well, I mean, the point is it's not reviewable, so any police officer can just allege it.
It's just like, to me, it's not, I mean, I know people go that fast all the time. It's not 30-day driving prohibition worthy. You see people on Highway 1 late at night going that speed.
Yeah, there's spots that are 80 on Highway 1 right now where there's construction in the day and there's nothing going on at nighttime and there's nobody. And yeah, people drive 120 through it all the time.
Yep.
I mean, I drove through it last night and people were passing me and I was doing 110 through certain parts. And I don't know if it was 80 or if it was 100 at that point.
Well, and 110 is like the rate of traffic in those areas.
Yeah,
Anyway.
110 to 120 is the rate of traffic, basically from Hope to Vancouver.
And then at a rate of speed that is 150 kilometers an hour or more.
Now, I got to tell you, on the Coquihalla in summertime, the speed limit is 120. It is not uncommon for people to be going 130. And there's times you're on a hill, you're coming down, and I look and I'm going 140. Shit. You know, I'm a driving lawyer. I don't want a ticket. And I slow down. But it wouldn't be difficult to mistakenly end up going 150. And sometimes, you know, you're going 120 and there may be a circumstance where you have to speed up for safety reasons. You risk again, but it's not reviewable. So it doesn't matter. A police officer can just allege it. They don't have to prove it.
Yeah. The other one, the last definition that bothers me the most is this one: driving without due care and attention, without reasonable consideration for other persons using the highway, or in a manner that is likely to cause harm to an individual or likely to distract, startle, or interfere with users of the highway by doing any of the following. 1, driving or operating the motor vehicle in a manner that indicates an intention to prevent another motor vehicle from passing, slowing or stopping in a manner that prevents other motor vehicles from passing or blocks or impedes other motor vehicles. That literally includes the definition of if you are in an intersection and you're going in the intersection and the traffic stops and you don't make it through the intersection, you're not supposed to enter until it's clear, but it happens. And you're stuck there and your tail's out, impeding the traffic coming when the light changes. You're losing your license for 30 days for that?
Well, it also includes honking your horn. If you startle somebody to try and stop them from doing something, even if it's unsafe, like unsafely passing you, if you can see that there's a car about to turn about to turn left on the highway in front of you, and the person behind you can't see, and they're about to end up in the lane in front of you, and you sound your horn, you now get a 30-day driving prohibition because you may startle them.
The other day, I was almost killed by a semi-truck driver on my way to court, and I didn't even have time to honk my horn, but I should have honked my horn.
Yeah.
I had to take a very crazy evasive maneuver, and
by that definition, how do you honk your horn?
I would be the one to lose my license.
You lose your license.
That's insane.
Yeah. So I did a TikTok where I said, look, you honk your horn in BC. It's not reviewable.
Yeah.
But you can lose your license for 30 days on the basis of honking your horn.
And then without justification, driving or without justification, as though you have any opportunity to justify it.
Because you can't review it.
You can't put in a provision that says without justification and then give no opportunity to provide the justification.
You're going to try and provide the justification to a police officer at the roadside.
Yeah.
First of all, you should be keeping your mouth shut. But secondly, you shouldn't be in a position there where you have to make justification. Thirdly, every police officer gets their back up against the wall and does not want to hear your justification because they've already decided you're guilty, inevitably.
Yeah, I got pulled over recently. I didn't realize I wasn't allowed to make a left turn where I made a left turn.
Yes.
I didn't see the sign. There didn't used to be one there. And
they changed it because of construction.
And I got stopped, and the officer walked up to the window and said, "You made a left turn against no left turn sign. You broke the law." Like, right away.
Yeah.
Didn't even want to hear that I didn't know and it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Like, you broke the law. I mean, it was fine. I ended up being able to tell my story.
You got a
I got a warning because I follow my advice. The driving as close as possible to another motor vehicle, pedestrian, or fixed object. So again, that same example of your butt sticking out in the intersection, you get real close to the vehicle in front of you, or you get real close to the vehicle in front of you to let somebody into the left turn lane. Now you're losing your license for 30 days for trying to be considerate.
A fixed object.
Yeah, a fixed object.
The highway.
What do you mean? The curb? The median?
A post? Yeah, a curb. Yeah. Sign. I just drove past a sign. I was too close to that sign as I drove past that median. As I'm in the left-hand lane, they're in the right-hand lane. I'm coming up. The highway's about to divide. The fixed object. What is it? The fixed object.
And then if you make a left turn at a green light immediately after it turns green and there's traffic facing the other direction that's stopped at the red.
Now, this is something that irritates the heck out of me. I see it from time to time, usually in people who have like high-powered cars, and they're looking across the intersection and they see a PT Cruiser or something like that, or a Chrysler minivan with an old person in it, and they're at the front, and the light turns green, and they make a jump left-hand turn before the vehicle goes on the other side. And I have to say, people should be ticketed for that. It's an unsafe left-hand turn. They're supposed to yield to the vehicle coming from the opposite direction. But then there's times you're sitting there where I'm sitting up there waiting to make the left, and the person across the road is texting.
Yeah.
And you can see their heads down, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to go because otherwise I'm impeding all of the vehicles behind me. Well, I will lose my license here for 30 days. It has happened to me at least twice in my life that I've been in that situation where the person the other way has just not clicked in. And when are they going to click in? Like, how long are you going to wait for them to realize that they've got a green light?
Yes. Now, the other thing that's really weird about this legislation is there's no vehicle impound. So these people are immediately prohibited from driving for 30 days. What happens to their car? Because the police don't have the power under this legislation to remove the car from the road. I mean, unless they're like an excessive or something.
Yeah.
But then what? The car just stays there?
Just leave the car on the roadside for 30 days. Yeah, get your friend to come 4 or 5 days later and pick it up.
Yeah.
One just wonders, like, what happens to you when you're driving through Manning Park? And a lot of people get excessives in Manning Park, and you end up with one of these speed things where it drops down to 80 and you don't see it because it's behind a semi at the time because there's 2 lanes there. And like summertime, it's excessives. The police get a car hauler to haul all the vehicles away for excessive speeding. But if for some reason the police officer doesn't give you an excessive speeding in these circumstances, just decides, you know what, I can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was excessive speeding, but it doesn't matter to me, I can give you a 30-day impound, then they can just leave your vehicle there and leave you there.
Yep, pretty much. Your vehicle on the side of the Coca-Cola.
Well, in this case, the Highway 3,
Yep.
But, whatever, Crow's Nest Highway in Manning Park.
Wherever.
Leave it there until you can come back, and you're there on the roadside. You can't drive. Of course, a bear will come and eat you.
No, you might think this is bad enough.
That'll be the end of your problems.
You may think this is bad enough, as I've already described it. No, it gets worse.
That's worse.
Worse it does. Because once the officer serves you the prohibition, where the legislation explicitly says no appeal lies in respect of a prohibition issued under subsection 2, The officer is then required to also write a report. This is the only deterrent to officers using this, is that they have to do more work. They're required to write a report to the superintendent of motor vehicles describing the factual basis for the peace officer's reasonable grounds in serving a notice. And then they can they send that to the superintendent. It also says that if they fail to do so, then the prohibition is void. But how do you even know that they did? Like, what do you get the notice? And there's a prescribed time period, but we don't even know what that time period is.
Yeah. I mean,
How are you gonna know?
they could make it 2 weeks. What we find with IRPs, for example, is police officers won't submit a report sometimes. It's rare, but they won't submit a report. And how do you know? If you didn't file it in dispute, you will never know that the police officer didn't send in a report. We file them in dispute. The police officer is supposed to do it on the same shift, and most of the time they do. Sort of outside is 4 days, but occasionally they just don't submit it. And if you didn't file for review, you'd never know.
How is, like, if the prohibition is void because the officer doesn't submit the material to the superintendent, how is the superintendent of motor vehicles ever supposed to cancel the prohibition that they don't know about?
Yeah.
Are they just gonna, like, randomly run everybody's CPIC?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Yeah. And then the superintendent, once they get that report from the officer, is required to consider a further driving prohibition.
So not required to look at it to say this is appropriate or this is not appropriate. This meets the definition. This doesn't meet the definition. No, they're required to consider whether or not the driving prohibition should be longer.
And they also may go back to the police officer and ask for more information. You didn't give me enough information to justify the prohibition, rather than us going to the driver and asking them to giving them the opportunity to counter or dispute this. You better give us more evidence so we can give a further prohibition.
Yes. And this is all based on at maybe a presumption or a balance of probabilities, rather. Maybe just a suspicion that the police officer held. I mean, it talks about reasonable grounds. Reasonable grounds usually implies a balance of probabilities, but what is reasonable grounds to a police officer? What is reasonable grounds to the superintendent of motor vehicles? And again, there's no authorization to revoke in here, to revoke the prohibition or to cancel the prohibition. There's no mention of that.
No, the superintendent is required to credit the person for the 30 days in whatever length of prohibition they decide to impose. But like you and I have seen those high-risk driving incident reports where people get like unhinged 3-year driving prohibitions.
Yes. And it seems completely unjustified, and you're sitting there looking at it going, how can you possibly have concluded that this was appropriate?
I had one recently where an officer submitted a high-risk driving incident report to a woman who was backing into a parking space on a hill and backed a little too far, and her vehicle went down the hill, like a little tiny hill, into some grass. And they turned around and prohibited her for like 9 months or something.
Yeah. No, I know. Well, look, we had one recently where the person was issued a high-risk driving prohibition, and then we went to trial, and everything the police said in that submissions turned out to be a lie. It was just, they were just lying.
Yep.
And the court found that it was just had been lying in so much of the material, but it was ultimately the client was acquitted.
It's also weird because they create a new driving while prohibited offense. I don't know why, because they could have just amended the existing driving while prohibited offense under 95 to include if you're prohibited under like 90.2. And then they've also created a new evidentiary shortcut for proving the drive while prohibited offense, which again, they could have just added the section in a different existing section. It's clunky the way that they've done it.
Well, there was no reason for it at all. You just amend the drive while prohibited to add these other things that they wanted to add. But the whoever did this didn't understand the history of how we got to where we are with drive while prohibited. How we managed it. The court has dealt with so many different aspects of it over the years, and it was amended in 2005 to address that, and it works pretty well. No reason to change it. If you want to up the punishment, that's one thing, but
yeah. So ridiculous. This is bad legislation, and it's gonna pass.
It'll pass because when it's gets to first reading, you watch the process of bills in BC. Any bill that's sponsored by the government, this is by a government member, just passes. And every bill that's been harsh on drivers, that looks like it's going to be tough on bad driving, always passes. The question is, will it be found constitutional? And the fact that it's a private member's bill and it is this hokey, suggests to you maybe that it would be turfed. But that's not what happens typically when it goes to court. Typically when things go to court in BC, first of all, feels like the government's always got their finger on the scale in a sense. And that's actually the case because there's a presumption that the government is doing things that it knows what it's doing. A. B, it's always hard to argue against something that's tough on bad driving.
And C, there's arguably no charter rights engaged because there's no search, no seizure, it's your driving privileges.
Yeah.
The only way I think you could argue it, this is my thinking, this is my through line, is overbreadth. Now, you can only argue overbreadth if there's a risk of an actual penal consequence. But because they created the specific drive prohibited offense, which has the potential for a jail sentence, I think we can get to overbreadth that way.
But and I know, it won't just be the legislation being turfed, because that's the other thing. If you go and argue it in court and argue that this legislation as a whole is unconstitutional, the judge is going to say, baby with bathwater? No, we'll take out this line, we'll take out this line, and you'll have to come back and rewrite it with a review provision.
Suspend the declaration of invalidity for 6 months to allow the government to write a reasonable review process.
And in the meantime, everybody who's prohibited has no remedy.
As though, any review process with Road Safety BC can be accomplished in 30 days.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, IRP review is 21 days is basically the quickest you get it. And in 30 days, your vehicle is impounded. The family's lost the vehicle for 30 days. The soonest you're getting it back is 21 days if the IRP is revoked.
Yeah.
So, over the last 5 years, we have seen IRPs that have been adjourned for what's the longest time? Close to a year, 8-9 months waiting for a decision.
Well, I had one that was from 2016 that I eventually, this year, went to the court and got them to quash it.
Yeah.
It was one where they took the position they had no authority to revoke it, but they also couldn't confirm it. So they just continued to extend it. And I was like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Who's complaining if you revoke it? Who's complaining?
Yeah. Some adjudicators get sick. Adjudicators get overworked and have problems. Adjudicators
go on strike.
Adjudicators quit, and then they've got to assign it to a new adjudicator for a new hearing, which I've never felt was something that they had the lawful authority to do, but they do.
I challenged that in court once, and the adjudicator died.
Yeah.
Yeah. The court said, nice try, Miss Lee. You can have costs, though.
Death is different than an adjudicator just deciding, I decided I'm not going to be an adjudicator anymore.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, any last thoughts about this terrible, terrible legislation?
I just, if you live in BC, call your MLA and tell them it's awful and follow it up with an email, because otherwise it'll never get to them, and tell them that this is not how we should be passing legislation. It shouldn't be a reactionary thing. It's never wise to be drafting legislation in a reactionary environment when you're looking at some bad event that happened. And this legislation would not have addressed that. It would not have stopped it. It would not have discouraged it. It would not have accomplished anything that would have fixed this. And I personally, my view is, if I had a family member who went through some horrible thing because of somebody's bad driving, I would not want their name attached to something that took away rights like this. I just think it's disrespectful ultimately. And I feel like the family's been played, because they clearly don't understand the implications of this. They clearly, looking at the comments and you're on your TikTok, don't understand the implications of it.
Yes.
So that's, I think that's really unfortunate. I think it's irresponsible to put forward legislation like this.
I also want to respond to something that somebody said to me on TikTok. They direct messaged me and said that my TikTok explaining the legislation is insensitive to the family because this legislation is because their child was killed right in front of them. And yeah, that's terrible. Nobody's saying that that's good, but you can't write bad laws to make people feel better.
Well, you can't write bad laws too, and then not have a discussion and debate about them because you tied them to the horrible, tragic death of somebody. So you're going to restrict your ability to talk about it because somebody died in a bad way that was awful for the family. Like that's no way to run a democracy. And we're supposed to be able to have actual public discussion about these things.
Yeah. Anyway, I almost feel like not wanting to do our ridiculous driver of the week because I just feel like kind of depleted from all of this.
Well, I think we have to do our ridiculous driver of the week because it's not actually a typical one.
Yes.
So, I don't have the information here in front of me, but I sent it to you on TikTok. In parts of California, they have these robot taxis, and they're Jaguar SUVs. I think they're called Wenmos or something like that. And there's
Waymo.
Waymo, no driver. You get in it, you order it like an Uber. You get in it, there's no driver in the front. And I understand that there's like a video driver somewhere who can check in on the thing and correct it, like they're watching from a remote location, but otherwise the car basically drives itself. And in this case, a Wenmo drove right into an active police standoff situation where police cars all over, just like on, like a bank robbery type scenario in a Hollywood movie, are surrounding a building and caution tape and police cars, parked there. And it drove right up into the middle of it to drop the person off, basically right in front of like the active shooter type thing.
Who do you ticket in that situation?
Well, that's the thing. We talked about that before. I mean, I assume California is pretty advanced in all things. And I admire their Governor Newsom, certainly, and they're the fourth largest economy in the world, and they happen to be just a state. But yeah, I'm sure they've got some sort of legislation to deal with it. But how do you discourage it? So we have our ideas of discouraging people using the justice system in Canada. We've got general deterrence and specific deterrence. So specifically deterring the individual, you're supposed to be generally deterred by seeing police officers out enforcing the rules of the road. You're supposed to be specifically deterred when you get a ticket and you go, oh, God damn it. But how do you
deter an autonomous vehicle?
Exactly. So that was we thought that was pretty ridiculous. Good ridiculous driver.
There's a traffic court judicial justice who right now always wants our clients to attend if we make a deal, so he can give them a lecture as part of deterrence. What if I was representing a Waymo? What would he want me to bring the car to court? I kind of want this situation to happen now.
I'm sure you do. Yeah. We're capable of giving our clients a stern lecture too. We do that. So if you're a police officer and you're wondering whether or not our clients have had any other repercussion, they've all had the stern lecture from us. And I would tell you, they've actually paid us to listen to the stern lecture. So they usually do.
Yep. All right, well, that's our podcast. If you have a driving law related issue or you need to talk to us about a driving prohibition of some sort, you can give us a call at 604-685-8889 or find us online at vancouvercriminallaw.com and tune in next week for another exciting episode of Driving Law.